English 121. Close reading and summary. Summaries offer a condensed, objective account of the main ideas of a longer text. You can think of summaries as short, tightly written pieces that retain an author's main ideas while eliminating supporting details. Writing summaries is a particularly important part of research writing, where you will often present condensed views of other writers' arguments, sometimes in support of your own view and sometimes as an alternative view that you must analyze and respond to. There are several components of good summaries. Summaries must be introduced with proper attribution and contextual information, including the author's name, the title of the text, the publication date and publication source, and sometimes even the genre. Now let's take a look at an example. In the article, How Anecdotal Evidence Can Undermine Scientific Results, published in the journal Scientific American on July 25, 2008, author Michael Shermer argues, and then of course you would assume the writer would go on to present the thesis of the article and all of the main ideas. But you can see here we have the title of the author, the writer's name, the source title, and the publication date. The first sentence of a summary typically presents the main idea or thesis of the entire text, and the rest of the summary is spent paraphrasing the author's key points. So to build on what we saw in the last example, the writer might continue on to say, in this essay, writer Michael Shermer argues that the human species is genetically predisposed toward believing in anecdotes and sensational data rather than scientific facts because it's evolutionarily beneficial to use inductive reasoning rather than ignoring anecdotal connections that might, quote, take you out of the gene pool. If you are incorporating a summary of another text into your own writing, you'll need to frame it so that the readers can easily distinguish your ideas from that of the author you're summarizing. Use quotation marks around any passages that use the writer's original wording, and cite the source using the appropriate documentation style for your course, and use frequent attributive tags or signaling phrases. These are action verbs that connect to the writer's name to show that the information you're about to present belongs to that writer, such as Thurs argues, Thurs states, Thurs claims, Thurs says, Thurs points out, and so on. However, you must remain objective as you use attributive tags. Avoid interjecting your opinions by choosing your verbs in the attributive tags carefully. You wouldn't want to use loaded language such as Thurs alleges, Thurs assumes, or Thurs bellows because you're interjecting your own opinion through your word choice, which violates the rule of objectivity in summary writing. Also remember that your summaries need to be of an appropriate scope that is comparable to the original text. Therefore, in writing a summary, you must distinguish between the main ideas and supporting points and provide even and proportional coverage of the entire text. Be sure to include the author's main idea or thesis near the beginning of the summary, and then go on to provide even coverage of each of the key points that the author uses to support that thesis. Avoid wasting time and space on detailed evidence. Being objective means providing fair, complete, and proportional coverage of each of the author's key points, and being concise means learning how to skip over supporting evidence, so you want all of your coverage to be scaled down to the original argument or text. Also remember argument structure as you try to determine the appropriate scope or how much attention to pay to each of the author's ideas. Argument structure consists of a thesis, key supporting points, and finally supporting evidence to prove the points. The difference here is scope. Theses are usually relatively broad and can encompass each of the more specific points that the author makes throughout the text. They are always debatable claims. Realize that both the thesis and the key points are debatable claims and not factual evidence or data. However, the key points will be a little more focused than the entire thesis itself, which is the broadest thing in the entire piece of writing. Finally, the evidence is the most specific component of any text and doesn't need to be included or attended to in the summary. These are the facts that the writer uses to prove their points. So let's just recap some of those criteria of a good summary. It represents the original text accurately and fairly. A good summary is always direct and concise, using words economically. A good summary always remains objective and neutral, not revealing the writer's own ideas on the subject, but instead only the original writer's points. A good summary gives the original article balanced and proportional coverage. A good summary mostly uses the summary writer's own words to express the original author's ideas through the use of paraphrase. It also distinguishes the summary writer's ideas from the original writers by using attributive tags such as according to or the author argues. A good summary uses quotes sparingly, if at all, to present the author's key terms or to convey the flavor or style of the original text, and it is a unified and coherent piece of writing in its own right. And finally, a good summary cites and documents the text the writer is summarizing and any quotations used according to an appropriate documentation style, in our case APA style because we're writing for the scientific community. These are the criteria of a good summary that I'll hope you keep in mind as you're doing your close reading for this class and all of your college level coursework.